The Sherpa Screening Room is a presentation of the Sherpa's podcast picks, which can be heard on podcast apps everywhere, and the Sherpa-lution YouTube page. It's where you'll hear from creators from many fields from all over the world. Now, we take you to the Sherpa Chalet, where your host, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, awaits you. Kind of like how I'm waiting to get paid for this.
Our guest on the Sherpa Screening Room this week is adventure illusionist Rich Manley. He has a TV show where he travels to faraway countries to connect with them through magic. I think that the Sherpa would be a powerful magician. After all, think of all the people he scares away just by opening his mouth.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa Screening Room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, rebels of the Sherpa-lution, and welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. It is coming to you from Sherpa-lu Studios, which is in the Sherpa Chalet high atop Mount Podcastia, where I, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, your teeny tiny host with TMJ and sleep apnea and any other possible medical problem, comes to you and brings you new episodes of stuff like this. And in the Sherpa Screening Room, we get to speak to creators, where we get to talk to actors, writers, singers, musicians, etc., and so on. Not the ones who are podcasters, but this guy that we're talking to today actually has a TV show on the streaming network Tubi. I like Tubi. Tubi's a pretty cool network. His name is Rich Manley. He hosts a show that is called Culture Shock, and he is what is known as an adventure illusionist. Now, I think it's easier for Rich to explain it to you in the interview than it is for me, but I got to tell you, the premise of this show, if you haven't seen it, is really, really fascinating, and I was just blown away when we got to talking and he told me all about the story. I think you'll be fascinated by it too. It's definitely not one that you hear all the time. So let's move along and catch my interview with Mr. Rich Manley of the TV show Culture Shock. Hello there, rebels. We are here in the Sherpa Screening Room. My guest today is a guy named Rich Manley. He is coming to us from the lovely Burbank, California. I always think of laughing whenever I hear Burbank, California. He is the creator of a new show called Culture Shock that you can watch on Tubi. He's what's known as, I like this, an adventure illusionist. He is a magician and an actor, and he's actually got some of his own production stuff going on as well. We're going to get to know him. He's right here. Not on StreamYard, but on Zoom. Rich, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Jim? It's very nice to meet you. I'm glad that I'm here and I get to talk about what's going on with you.
Yes, it is a pleasure to meet you too, sir. I got to tell you something. Believe it or not, you are not the first magician to be on this show. And I've actually had two other magicians who were on here. And the publicist that I work with, he said, I don't understand it. He says, you're an audio podcast and you're having magicians do card tricks on your podcast. I said, wait a minute. I said, Edgar Bergen was a ventriloquist and he was on the radio. So don't come at me like that. Right? So point taken, right?
Point taken. Yeah, it's very much so.
Okay. Now the premise of your show, this is so interesting and very unique. I mean, really, it kind of starts when you were like 10 years old and you're hanging out with your grandfather and he got you into magic.
Yes, yeah, it did. Actually, I was 10 and he traveled the world. He actually was a surgeon, but in the 40s, they taught surgeons sleight of hand to be better with their finger dexterity. So that's how he got interested in magic. And he would travel all over to different conferences talking about medicinal practices. But then he would go deep into whether it was the Amazon jungle or China, Tibet, climb mountains. He would meet these communities. He'd do magic for them. And it was a way for them to bridge cultures and actually learn more about them, which is what I was fascinated with as a kid. And he taught me my first magic trick at 10 years old. And then I wanted to kind of be like him.
This actually happened, that you actually received some writings from him about his travels. And this is what inspired Culture Shock.
Yeah, so basically he had a journal of all the places that he went, and he wrote about, this mysterious tribe he met in Sri Lanka. He wrote about the people that he met in the Amazon. He also wrote about people he met in Madagascar, just all over the world. And he gave it to me before he passed, and I looked through it, and there were just all these amazing places. And I said to myself, I'd love to just, in homage to him, follow in his footsteps and actually see what he discovered through all this. And so that's the basis of the show is, I received this journal and I go on this mission that's both, physical and interpersonal, meeting people throughout the world, doing magic for them, getting into some, dangerous situations too, having to employ adventure skills to get out of them and reach these settlements. And, then the real magic, what I end up learning is it's just that connection with people. And it's what he learned as well.
Now, when you go into these other countries and you're presenting, doing your tricks and stuff like that, do they get a little excited, like they think that you're like a shaman or anything like that? Or do you have to explain to them, look, this is, what I do. I create illusions. And how is it that you break it to like other cultures?
Yeah, so we that's happened before.
Okay.
So basically, so we have fixtures that come with us, and obviously we have a production team and crew. So most of the time, there's translators and people who can talk to the particular tribes or cultural groups and say, okay, this is just a trick. He's not a real magician, because sometimes it's very some of them really take it very seriously, and
right.
They think I'm a witch doctor in some degree. I could be cast out, or something bad could happen to me. I mean, in Papua New Guinea, there's communities and tribes that we plan to go to in our season 2, by the way, that are cannibal groups, and so you don't want to necessarily say you have magical abilities, because to them, to consume somebody with magical powers would be a great honor. So it wouldn't bode well for me.
You want to keep that a little low key, right?
Yeah. So we do have to, we have to go through that process of making sure that everyone knows it's entertainment.
Now you've been already to Peru and Africa, and now your next season is going to be Bolivia and Papua New Guinea. Is that right?
Yeah, we have Bolivia, Papua New Guinea, we have Madagascar, we're going to Alaska. There's a lot of places we're going to, and Tanzania. Will be around Kilimanjaro and discussing a lot of the culture there and climbing the mountain.
I get to talk to a lot of people who do a lot of traveling, and I know everybody has that one place that kind of sticks out in their mind. And I was curious what place that has been for you so far.
That's interesting. I always say every place has its unique flavor. Egypt was the very first place I went to, and I think I was, just enthralled and just mystified by Egypt, just because it was the first place. But if I had to pick one of all the places, I would say Ethiopia. Ethiopia had a plethora of culture, adventure, and then also this spirituality to it. In the northern Tigray region, there's 5th century rock cut churches that you have to climb up to, and then when you actually get high up on top of these mountains, you overlook all the valleys, and you get to see where people used to go just to pray. And it's just a fascinating experience to be there. And then when you go to the southern tip, when you go to South Ethiopia, you're in Omo Valley. And in Omo Valley, you have all these cultural groups and these people, all these tribes, and it's just amazing to be there and show magic to them, and then see their ways of life. There's actually one experience when I was in Ethiopia where I was doing a dance, and they got me involved in this dance where you're jumping and you're holding hands. So I do that, and I don't realize, they don't tell me at the end, the chief says that this was a matrimony dance. So when all the men are jumping, there's women that kind of come and grab the person's hand, and I supposedly got married, and I didn't realize it. So I believe I have an estranged wife somewhere in Africa. But there's all these things you don't quite, realize until you're there. And then after the fact, you're like, oh, that just happened to me. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that at all,
Are you going to be traveling for one of your episodes, and you're going to get this telegram saying alimony?
Yeah, I may. Yeah, exactly. I may owe some money. I don't know.
I guess that remains to be seen, sir.
It remains to be seen. Episode or season 3, I guess you say.
Rich runs real fast. That's the episode.
Rich runs. Yes, exactly.
Now, I'm sure you probably have had probably some incidents of maybe some close calls while you've been traveling.
Yes, yeah. Well, I go back to Ethiopia. It seems like truly there was Ethiopia, but there was also Egypt. Ethiopia, we ended up going to Omo, and we were going to visit the Mercy tribe. And there's a lot of tribal warfare and conflict between borders. And there was a particular incident during this time where we were traveling to the village. We were at dirt roads in the middle of nowhere, really. So it was just completely barren land. And we're just outside the village, I think probably about less than a mile. And we get stopped by these guards, and the guards are pointing weapons at us, and they're in, army fatigue. So sometimes it's hard to tell if there's, strife going on within the country, if they're, good or bad. It's hard to tell. So we had a guard with us, and he was supposed to protect us just in case anything went wrong. And he had a weapon with him, which looked like it was a firearm from the 1800s. So I do not think it would have worked if we were in trouble. I kind of looked over and I was like, I think we should rely on our fists. But so we got close to the barricade and they stopped us. And our fixer, who's also our translator, Alex, got out of the car and he talked to everyone that was barricading, the army individuals that were barricading the road. And they said that 2 individuals were just shot and killed because they were robbing people that were driving through. So there was a big issue there. They were also robbing other tribes, and any tourist vehicles, a tourist vehicle ahead of us got robbed. And so they said, you have to turn around. This is a big scene here. And so we're turning around and we're kind of, a little hesitant. We don't know if there's also other bandits that are hiding behind rocks or anything like that. In that moment, I really thought, in some way I was scared, but also a little bit excited because I was like, oh, this is like really, really Indiana Jones type of, situation I'm in. But it was eye-opening. It really was, because you start to see how these communities interact with each other and some of the real issues that are going on. And it's a much different place and a much different world than the safety we have behind our Zoom and our computer screens. I mean, it's when you're there, you really see how these people are living. And sometimes it's scary. Sometimes they're just trying to survive,
Yeah. I guess that's probably got to be the biggest lesson for you when you're seeing all of, these other cultures too, where, we always say, like, especially as Americans, we take for granted everything that we have until we see another culture and they're, it's not even relatable to what we have.
Yeah. It's very true, and I think really a lot of the message in the show is just that, it's showcasing people. It's using magic as that conduit to really get deep inside the traditions and the culture of these people, and see how they live, and so be thankful for what we do have, but also to understand that there's communities out there and there's people that could use our help and our support in some of the environmental issues that are going on, but in those communities or the government organizations. And it makes us think, maybe when I travel, I'll view things differently. And it's about respecting the tradition and what we're slowly losing as humans when we get into this modern world and we have all this technology,
Absolutely. Now, when you're doing your show, is it mostly sleight of hand or is it large stage illusions?
Yeah, so when I'm traveling, it's mostly sleight of hand. It's mostly street magic. So if you've ever seen any street magic specials, the stage illusions are just, they're more difficult to do because of the nature of the show is it's constant movement. We're constantly traveling and we're constantly adventuring to these places. So that said, we try to be very light, and a lot of it's very intimate magic. That
actually, since we're talking about live shows, you are going to be doing some touring, and your stage show is called Diary of Magic.
Yes. So Diary of Magic is with Wiggle Room, and the whole concept is intimate venues. So it is smaller effects, but it's about storytelling. So, you may have 60, 70 people in a room, and they're just watching me talk about my experiences I've had traveling the world. But also showcasing the magic I've seen. Like, for instance, one scenario in Sri Lanka, I was visiting Sri Lanka and I was looking for the Veda people, which my grandfather had also met. And they're the oldest living descendants of the first people that ever inhabited Sri Lanka. And back in the day, it was considered the Demon's Island. So no sailor or anyone wanted to visit there. And these Veda people are animists, and they study. They believe there's spirits in everything, but they also worship this exorcist. So they believe that if anyone is sick or they have an ailment, even a headache, then they're possessed by a demon. And there's one story that the shaman told me when I was there, that he had a girl swallow 50 needles. And one by one, she swallowed these needles because that was the way to exorcise a demon that he couldn't get rid of in her stomach. And then he took out those needles one by one. So in the same fashion, in my show, I have an audience member come up. I show them 50 needles. I have them take a needle. I place it in my mouth, swallow that needle, use a piece of thread, and take that needle out, tie it on the needle after swallowing it. So these are some of the things I show the audience that I've witnessed or stories I've witnessed while traveling.
That is really cool that that you get to do this. How long exactly have you been doing magic? I mean, like professionally.
I started 10 years old, and then I did martial arts for a while, and so I took a break and in my teens, and then I picked it up again, and I really practiced more when I was in my early 20s. So, I've been doing it for almost on and off 20 years now. And really it started out with bar magic. I do magic at bars. And then I performed at the Magic Castle. I did magic shows on TV, on the CW, Masters of Illusion. So I've been around magic for most of my life.
Yeah, it's interesting when you see magicians perform, because like when you see a musician or a singer, you might be reminded of someone else. But I think magicians always seem to kind of carve out a really unique niche when they're performing. People don't say, oh, well, you remind me of Chris Angel, or, you remind me of Doug Henning, if I'm going to go back in the past there. Do you think that there's a lineage there, or do you think it's just a mutual love where people have kind of taken it in a direction where they think their audience will be fascinated? That's a heavy question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I didn't know you were going to get that deep. I'm still trying to dissect that.
Okay, so do you think? Okay, I'll try and break it down a bit better, Rich. I'm sorry. So do you think that there is a lineage of magic, of there are different generations, or do you think that you're all kind of really just taking a tradition and putting your own spin on it?
Yeah, I think there's an evolution to magic. I think every magician brings their personality to it, and I think that's the big thing. It's personality. There's and every magician, I think, is fascinated by different things, and it's that sense of wonderment. But I think the real purpose is, not to make the magic about the magician or about the person, because a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, magicians spend a lot of time with sleight of hand. But the funny thing is sometimes the things that wow people the most are a simple card counting trick where you just take cards and it just magically works and you don't have to do any sleight of hand. Right. And you spent maybe 5 years developing all these moves. And people are like, nah, that was okay. But then they love the thing that's the simplest. And I think one thing throughout all magicians, if I have to say, is that it's always remembering that the core of magic is for the audience. We are here to remind the audience, or whoever we're performing for, of that wonderment, that sense of when we were kids and we always questioned what if. And I think that's really important as a magician, to not forget that and not just do things for theatrics for the sake of it, but really to have magic that empowers that feeling within the audience.
Yeah, and I guess that's what really makes magicians stand out from other performers, that a singer wants you to know their newest song, and they might play the hit from 30 years ago as well. But, your audience, you want them to kind of suspend their imagination and just kind of delve into stuff like you said, the wonderment of when they were kids, and just these magical things are happening. And that makes it really all the more fun, where they're not trying to oh, I saw something in his hand, or I see a wire. It's just the skepticism goes away and just the fun is right there for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, you see that when, especially, I witnessed that when I traveled abroad into some of these smaller communities. You really see the wonderment because, we're kind of inundated in here in the modern, society with all of our technology and everything. We're inundated with constant exposure to these things. But if you go to, even Palma Real, this small community in the Amazon, some of the kids were just absolutely, their eyes were lighting up and they could not believe what they were seeing, and they whether they believed it was real magic or not, the point was that it brought them extreme joy, and I think that's really important.
Sure. And, we should also mention that you are also an actor and you actually have your own production company as well, 12th Planet. Now, you did a movie called Fallen Cards. Did you play a magician in this movie or?
Yes, I do play a magician.
Yes.
So the magician persona is not far away. But this magician is very downtrodden. He's a downtrodden magician. And he kind of falls into it. The whole story arc is a magician who has to kind of save this broken world, and he doesn't really want to. He's kind of like a Batman magician in a Mad Max world. So it's a post-apocalyptic movie, and everything's destroyed, and Old Town Vegas is rebuilt. So the world's rebuilt on this Vegas-style city, and this magician is the center of it. He's the biggest star in the city, and he ends up having to save the fate of this broken place.
Yeah, and I read that you were also in a Tom Cruise movie. You were in Night and Day.
Yes, I was in Night and Day. I was, yes. Yeah, which was great. I mean, I didn't get to meet Tom, and I was sad about that. But I did. I was working with Cameron Diaz, working with Maggie Grace. That was a terrific experience. Just being on that movie,
It's interesting because I don't get to hear too many stories about musicians who play musicians in movies, or they do something different. But it's cool to hear about an actual magician who knows how to do a magician in a movie, because I think sometimes when you have like an actor do it, there's not that sincerity. I think there's like a little bit of a disconnect. It's kind of like, for the sake of the movie, this actor is playing this magician.
Yeah, and I think too, and I guess I have a very artistic mind, but I one thing I think it is if you have an actor who learns to be a magician, you get that sincerity in the performance. And sometimes if you're taking a magician or strictly a martial artist who doesn't delve into the acting side of it, you get a great performance as a magician or a martial artist, or whatever it may be in that profession. But sometimes the acting's lacking because you're not focusing. You're focusing more on what you truly are, and so that's why I'm very much into the magician persona, but really understanding the person underneath the magician. And I think that's really important. The magician is kind of a facade for why that person is a magician. And I think that's important in acting as well.
Let people know about Culture Shock first, where they can find it on Tubi. What night is it normally on? Is there a night where new episodes come out?
So Tubi is one of those things where it's all on streaming. So every episode's released at once. So you can watch it at your leisure. It's on Tubi TV. You just look up Culture Shock, Bridging Culture Through Magic. You'll find it. All 6 episodes are out.
You're working on season 2 for this right now?
Yes. Yeah, okay. We're in production for season 2, and we're going to Bolivia, and that's the first episode.
Okay. If people follow you on social media, are they going to see you doing magic?
Social media, yeah. So the social media aspect, I do magic, but I also do a lot of adventure. So most of my social media is based in rock climbing, whitewater kayaking, or all these adventures I do that I train to go to these different places with magic underlying all of it.
Okay. And where can people follow you if they want to see you doing all this stuff?
If you want to follow me, social media, Instagram is Rich C. Manley, and you can see all my adventures. You can see all the magic. It's all there.
Okay, I like this. This is a real cool TV show that we get to talk about. It's definitely not.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's definitely not the usual stuff that you hear about, and I love when people actually have unique concepts for TV, and it's not the 18th version of Law and Order or another doctor show or another lawyer show.
They must be doing something right, because if they're on 18 episodes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, we need to shake it up a little bit and get people interested into like unique stuff like yours. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Jim. It was great talking with you. I had a great time.
It looks like the Sherpa is no longer locked in the bathroom at the Sherpa Chalet, so we can finally get back to the show.
Thanks so much to Rich Manley for swinging by the Sherpa Chalet, and be sure to catch his TV show Culture Shock on Tubi and Tubi or not Tubi? Yes, Tubi. Yes, that is the answer. You want to go there to check out Rich's show, and I'm sure you will really enjoy it too. Really amazing stuff. Now, before I let you go, I want to tell you a little story. As you well know, or you may not know, I've been doing a little mini side project, just a couple more episodes left to go, called Fake People, Real Trivia. I've actually featured it on this show. And it's the Sherpa-lu studio players, and they're doing their trivia thing. It's actual trivia questions, just handled all in an AI manner. I've got a little bit to do with it, but not too much. The players really know what to do. So anyway, one of my episodes was called Can You Explain Teen Slang? And it was a listener request. So I was happy to do it for the listener. I get an email from Spotify, and apparently someone in Spotify must have gotten a legal word a day calendar. Because they sent me this email saying that there was a possible infringement of third-party intellectual property. Now, to be clear, the information that is used on there is all referenced, and the reference links are in the show notes. So it's not like we're stealing information. And actually, it's rephrased, and it's basically pretty straightforward information. It's not really too scientific or technical or anything like that with the episodes that have been done so far. So I honestly have no idea what they're talking about. So they banned the episode on Spotify. They just pulled it off. They didn't even want to hear my explanation. I didn't even get the chance to fight for myself to get this played, which actually makes no sense. You can hear this episode on other podcast players because no one else has said anything about it to me. So I was going to end this episode with Spotify. I say notify, but then that would just be notify, wouldn't it? So anyway, I may as well notify you that if you want to hear more of these, check us out on Saturdays where we do Sherpa Selects, and it's featuring my favorite episodes from the first 7 seasons. We've got a whole bunch of them on there if you haven't heard them yet. And I can also notify you that you can connect with us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. I think that's all of them. Yeah, that sounds like all of them. And I will break out my legal term a day calendar and say, ipso facto, carpe diem, viva la Sherpa-lution. I'll see you next time, Rebels.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpa-lu Studios production. Viva la Sherpa-lution!